Hello, younglings, and welcome to Padawan Library, the universe's only Star Wars Junior novel podcast. I'm a very sleepy Levi Paratic, and with me is, I assume, a very well-rested man, Tim May.
I'm pretty well-rested, actually, given, the moment of our lives.
The world has changed quite a bit since we last recorded. In our last episode, we recorded like a week ahead, so things were even way different before then.
I think only James Bond had been delayed. The NBA wasn't canceled. I think I referred to the incredible weekend that LeBron had just had.
Yeah, you definitely did. We definitely had a lot of LeBron talk.
The NBA was canceled right after that, and LeBron's probably going to have his last truly great season robbed from him. What a sadness. I mean, obviously, with the reasonable caveats that obviously there are much more serious, real things going on. I apologize if anybody's offended by that. It's not a joke. I'm just also as a fan of things that are fun, and this podcast is about fun stuff.
Right. The only fun things, so...
It's a bit of a bummer, but, I mean, we'll see. Maybe they'll come back for a truncated playoffs in August or something. Anyway.
Yeah. So, this is, if you were excited for this episode, this is our Jedi Quest wrap-up episode.
Yeah, this is going to be much looser, I think, than our Apprentice wrap-up. Mm-hmm. For a couple reasons. One, I think we did a lot of big picture talk in the last few episodes already.
Yes, we have.
And two, I think I've got to say we kind of screwed ourselves because that big break we took in the middle.
I agree.
The early books, I'm having a little trouble.
Yeah, I know.
I'm looking at my stack right now, and I don't have number 7 because it's $30 or something online. I'm not paying that. And I'm like, ooh, man, some of these are... I had to read
the back of the books. I had to read the back of every one of them to, only the last few do I, really remember, but there's a few here that are just, woof, really blasé. We'll get into that.
We'll get into it, but we're just going to kind of ease into this. First of all, we haven't talked in a bit. How are you? How are you feeling? I'll say that first.
Well, actually, today I'm feeling like crap right now. So
what kind of?
Well, my
We're recording separately as usual, by the way.
Yes, we're not in person yet, so
we'll see. We'll see if that happens. Or not. By the way, if you heard last few weeks, we had announced that we were going to record our next 3 episodes in person next weekend. We'll see if that happens.
See if that happens.
If you're healthy and I'm healthy, maybe it'll be fine. We'll see. But
we'll see.
I'm not committing anybody to anything. No, and listen, you guys won't care. It's just otherwise we'll just record them the way we always do.
But I mean, if it makes any difference to the listener, you and I are currently about 100 miles away from each other, as opposed to 1,200 miles away.
Yeah. So. You flew back to Pennsylvania for a few weeks here. We'll see if that extends itself a little bit.
And oh my, I'm so worried about that.
I don't know.
My car and trailer are in Texas still.
Is your cat with you? Do you bring her?
She's with us.
Okay,
yeah,
at least there's that.
She's with us. We flew home on Wednesday, and Thursday was when the world changed.
Yeah. You guys got in right under the wire.
We did.
Wild stuff.
But I'm feeling a little poopy today. My tummy's a little on the. I got some of the rumblies right now, and my father works at a nursing home, and there's something went around at my parents' house, and I've been avoiding my parents' house like the plague.
You probably should, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yes, I know. I
know you're back in town specifically to visit people, and you can't visit them.
Yeah, my mother called me, and she's like, "Just so you know, you probably shouldn't come over for a while." And I was like, "All right." Yeah. But yeah, other than that, I'm just doing my thing. How about you?
I'm fine. I was a little worried last night because I had a bit of a sore throat, but I took some NyQuil, and that seemed to relieve it, which it would not if it were this virus, I feel like. So
right.
I think I'm fine. If I'm not, it is what it is. I'm staying indoors, basically, and I did go... I went to a friend's house today, and I feel like a great... I committed a great crime, maybe. I don't know. I went to watch Picard with a couple friends, but... I wash my hands every 5,000 minutes.
Oh, I'm washing
5,000 minutes,
so
that's a
much.
long time. Yeah, my hands are so dry right now.
I can't stop touching my face. It's the
hardest
thing in the world.
Listen, I know you... Probably our listeners are listening to this like every podcast I listen to, they're only talking about this, which is true, and I understand it's frustrating, but it's the only thing on anybody's mind. It is what it is.
Right.
I
mean, the first day I was home, I did go out. It was before everything was closed. But every place I went to a Goodwill, I went to the mall, I went to somewhere else, and every place I went to, I heard over people talking about it. It was just things are
it's a serious
going down.
thing.
Yep.
So if you are one of these turds that doesn't think it matters to do anything, you don't want to infect your grandma or someone else's grandma just because you want to go to a Post Malone concert or something. Come on. I don't think we have any super young idiot listeners. I think most of our listeners are probably listen.
They're all good kids. They're only
fine.
Good younglings.
Yeah. So it's probably fine. I don't want to. But if you are like that, just stay home. You don't. If early morning, when nobody's outside, you want to take a walk, get some fresh air. Go ahead. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Just stay away from people. Come on. Other than people you live with, you can't avoid that. That is what it is.
Yep.
But you need some people to interact with, even if they're just friend of the show, Brooke White. Which is no shots at Brooke, who's in the other room.
You guys, I've heard you guys have been watching some movies about quarantines and maybe some viruses.
Okay, listen, we're not like these freaks that are watching Steven Soderbergh's Contagion over and over again. A movie that terrified me when it came out. I don't know why you'd want to watch it in this environment. That's insane. That movie that virus had a 25% death rate in the movie, so I think we're safe from that one at least.
Yes, it's much lower than that.
It's still bad, but anyway, that movie's terrifying. Don't watch it. But I see every podcast, every movie podcast I listen to is we're doing our Contagion episode. I don't want to talk about Contagion right now. Okay. Anyway, what was the other thing? We were watching Resident Evil movies because Brooke had borrowed the set of all 6 Resident Evil movies from a friend of ours. And about a year ago, we watched the first 2. The second one is so terrible that we just didn't bother. And then in October, we were watching horror movies. We're let's throw a Resident Evil movie on. We watched the third one. Pretty bad, and we hadn't watched one since then, and there's only 3 more, so we watched one yesterday, Afterlife, and we watched Retribution today, and we're going to watch the final chapter in the next few days sometime.
You think it's the final chapter?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
They're developing a full-scale reboot, I think, of it.
Oh, okay.
But, listen, the movies are not good. I don't know what to tell you. These movies have like a real like cult following, like of people that are like, actually no, Paul W. Sanderson is like a interesting filmmaker. He's maybe an interesting filmmaker, but he's not a good one. There is a difference, you know. And I'm like as much of an auteurist loser as you can get.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, you know, I like plenty of like kind of whatever movies because I just think it fits interestingly into the director's filmography and all that nonsense. But guess what? He's an interesting guy who he's a fairly. This is my take on Paul W. S. Anderson. He is a pretty talented director who has very bad taste. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Like,
I mean, he's not the greatest Paul Anderson in the filmmaking industry. So.
Of course, I mean that's that's the joke you got to make. Obviously, it's ridiculous, but you know, it is what it is. Listen. I don't know. I got the Criterion Channel, and this is what I'm watching. It's a disaster for me. Listen, I'm also watching I, Claudius right now, the BBC miniseries from the 70s. Very good. And I started watching Brideshead Revisited, a BBC miniseries from the early 80s with Jeremy Irons. Also very good. I don't know, I'm becoming like a 55-year-old English professor.
You've been that for a very long time.
Yeah, I know. It is what it is.
You're not becoming. You are that. So
that's true.
That's
true. I think.
But I'm in.
Yeah. I think Mad Men turned me into this.
Mad
Men is much cooler than a lot of this stuff. Like obviously, like and it's like super artistically daring and interesting. But I do think like Mad Men's like. The respectability of Mad Men, like, I've started to be like, man, like, middle brow entertainment is good. I guess that's just getting older. I don't know, but
yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, speaking of not middle-brow entertainment, but highbrow entertainment, I'm in season 4 of Sopranos.
Oh, the greatest. So. Well, yeah, and also Mad Men is not middle-brow; it's very highbrow.
Very highbrow. I
mean, like, I don't know, like. Dramas, historical dramas, that kind of thing. But anyway, The Sopranos, you're in season 4, you said?
Season 4, yeah. It was. We just watched the second episode Steve Buscemi directed, where the girl, the car dealer that Tony was having a thing with, Tony found out she committed suicide. Oh,
so devastating.
And Tony keeps asking, like, "What am I, a toxic person?" Like he keeps asking people that.
Oh
it's just
my
like,
God.
oh, Tony.
I was about to say I love Tony. I do. I don't know what to say. It is what it is. This is my thing with The Sopranos versus something like Breaking Bad. Because I remember when Breaking Bad was on, a lot of people loved Walter White. And I was like, you know what? By like the 3rd episode, I hated that guy, and I never looked back. You know what I mean? Like, and I still think the show was super compelling and interesting, but like, I was like, he was the villain. I was rooting against him every step of the way. After he refuses the gift from his old colleagues, like I was like, oh, so you just don't actually care about getting better and being better for your family. You're like, okay, cool. That's what happens in like episode 4 or something. Like,
because like Tony's like always trying to do right by like, you know, everybody. He's always trying to do the right thing.
He has the entirely wrong frame of reference morally for everything.
Right.
I wouldn't say he's always trying to do the right thing. That might be a little extreme.
Well,
I would say that he genuinely does love his family. Obviously, he's a bad father and a bad husband, but I think he has actual love. He's actually a decent father as far as murderers as fathers go. I don't know. I love The Sopranos.
The when he's talking to Melfi and she's like asking him about like he's like the amorality of like what he does, and when he describes it as like, I'm a soldier, like that puts it like all under perspective.
Well, you gotta just think about that's the importance of the flashbacks in the first season. It's like that he's like, he was built to be this person, and like it's a different thing than with Walter White where he just decides like, I haven't been cool enough my whole life, so I gotta, like, you know what I mean?
I gotta step up now.
It's different than being, like, developed into this person from the beginning. I mean, obviously, it's a metaphor for American masculinity in general, and it's not just about violence, you know. But, like, out-and-out violence, I should say. It's also about, emotional violence and internalized. I love The Sopranos. It's the definitive document of the post 9/11 era, even though the first 3 seasons are pre 9/11. It's everything. It's one of the great works of post 9/11 art, in my view. Everybody knows The Sopranos is good, but you should watch it. You got plenty of time.
Yep, you're home. You're sitting on the
like
couch.
It's like 90 episodes. 90 episodes of greatness.
You're waiting for that new episode of Clone Wars to come out. I hear Ahsoka hasn't even shown up yet. Get some Adriana in your life. Get some Christopher in your life.
Yes.
Get some Paulie in your life.
Oh,
Come
Paulie
on.
Walnuts. Yes. Listen. Get some Father Phil in your life. Get some Artie Bucco in your life.
Get some Bobby in your life. Get some
Bobby Baklava.
Bobby Baklava.
Get some big pussy in your life.
Switching to the Americans. Get some Pastor Tim in your life.
Oh shit! Well, yes, the Americans also worth checking out. Listen, we should each give some TV show recommendations for quarantine here. This is what I'm going to say. These are all obvious, but you should watch them. The Sopranos, Mad Men, The Americans. 3 of the greatest dramas of all time.
Yep.
You should also watch... let me think of a good comedy that you can...
Oh, Lost. Don't forget about Lost.
Oh, Lost. If you haven't watched Lost, Buffy, all those, the greats, and we got like a letter in our Facebook. I don't know if you saw this.
Yeah, we should. Do you want to do that this week or next week?
Let's do it now. We have nothing to talk about.
Okay, all right. I'll pull it up. You keep listing your shows.
But anyway, let's see some good comedies.
Community, good comedy.
Oh, that's coming to Netflix, by the way.
Yeah, I saw that. The first 3 seasons.
The first 3 seasons just stop after that. You don't.
Oh my God! I just opened up my Facebook. Oh, Daniel Day Kim has coronavirus. Oh, damn.
Damn. Legend.
Damn.
He'll be okay, I think.
Yeah, I think he'll be all right too. But jeez.
But yeah, no. So the by the way, I apologize if in like 3 months, Daniel Day Kim is dead, and everybody and you're listening to this episode. I'm sorry. I'm sure he seems like a healthy enough man.
What's that thing he says to Son, like right before they at the end of this, near the end of the series, like, I will never leave you.
Listen, you can't bring that.
We're all sharing screenshots of that.
So I am. I just mentioned I watched the last 2 episodes of Picard just now. There was a moment in one of those episodes where I was openly weeping. And I couldn't wipe the tears from my eyes because I didn't have any tissues nearby, and I couldn't touch them with my fingers. I was just like, no. I just love Data so much. He's not even on the show. It's just Picard talking about Data, and I was crying just thinking about Data. It was so beautiful.
Oh, a dog just walked in. Sorry for the barking, folks.
Oh, dogs are kings.
Get out of here.
Dogs are kings.
Go. Leave. I'll shut the door. Hold on, people.
Okay, well, listen, guys. Levi's shutting the door. And, he did it already. He has
back.
You have a San Francisco 49ers sweater on.
I do. I'm not even, like, a fan of football, but, like, I love the way this thing fits me, so.
Well, that's no shame in that. I don't like football either.
Yeah.
Football is quite poor. I'm annoyed that it's the only sport that's not going to be affected by this. It's like it's the one that deserves it the most, deserves the hit the most.
I agree.
No shots to the players. I just mean the league and the owners. That's all I'm talking about. Anyway,
support the XFL then, Tim.
Never supporting Vince McMahon ever in my life. And I don't care about. I hate wrestling. If the listeners don't know that. Anyway. We should probably talk a little bit of Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, we got this message.
Let's talk about this.
I'll just read through the whole thing now.
He says not to read through it, but he's gonna.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
he doesn't say not to, but like he's like you probably won't read the whole thing.
Okay. Well, I didn't get it. I know we got it. So this is from Brendan.
Just say his first name. Fine,
yeah. Okay. So he says, "Greetings, Tim and Levi,"
hey.
and he starts off with his ranking of the movies. So this is gonna
listen. Shouts to Brendan. Mm-hmm. No shots at Brendan. I'm happy you listen. But I gotta say, I saw this ranking and I was shocked.
It's a very interesting ranking from our point of view.
We don't need to comment that much on it, but the ranking is shocking. That's all I'll say.
It is. It is certainly from a different point of view than our own. So number 1, Phantom Menace.
Already just wild. We love that movie here, but
no shots.
No shots.
2, Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
3, Return of the Jedi. Right. 4, Empire Strikes Back.
Fair enough.
5, Rise of Skywalker.
Okay. Listen, that is what it is. It's fine.
Oh,
we love
6,
you, Brendan.
New Hope.
Oh God. Listen, Brendan. No shots. That's all I'm saying. We're not taking shots today.
No shots. Just different point of view.
Different point of view. We love you. Thank you for listening.
Force Awakens, number 7. Attack of the Clones, number 8. Rogue One, number 9. Towards the end of the list. Very right. Solo, 10. I cannot agree with you there, and you know that if you listen to this show.
He knows
number
our
11.
opinions. Listen.
Yeah, Clone Wars, number 11, and number 12, Last Jedi. All right, moving on.
Listen, we are not going to comment at length about this. I'm just saying the list. It's a wild list. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, he says
after quite a roller coaster.
He says, just so you know what kind of savage you're dealing with here. And then he goes, also, I don't like Rose.
Okay.
So,
Now, listen. That's fine.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. You don't have to like the character, just don't be a dick. It's fine.
Yes. He's not. He says he's not being a douche about it. So that's what he's saying. So he said, I found your podcast scouring YouTube, and I'm currently up to Master of Disguise Jedi Quest number 4. But I know you guys have just finished the series, so I wanted to catch you before you continued. I'm glad that you guys are doing this podcast. My brother and I had a lot of these books when we were really young, and I eventually started reading them as a kid and finished his collection, which took like 6 years. LOL. But yeah, I've read the Jedi Apprentice books many times, Jedi Quest a few times, and Last of the Jedi maybe twice. Jude is my I'm assuming they're like favorite, kind of like a slangy, kind of like, these books really meant...
We are ancient, guys.
So,
for some of our younger listeners, I think Brendan's a bit younger than us. Is my guess.
I haven't creeped his Facebook page yet, so
I know I'm not. I didn't. Creep.
Oh, he was born in '95. He says
that's what he says. So
95.
he's a bit younger than us. So we don't have all the youth slang, and my youth slang is all a little bit different, just because I teach in a different kind of school, like an inner city school. So like it's not the same as a lot of necessarily the internet youth slang. I'm confused. Is what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm getting different things coming at me all the time.
Well, since he was born in '95, then that means like he was too young to go see the special editions when they were in theaters. So maybe that's why your ranking of A New Hope is so low.
The New Hope ranking is honestly the only one that actually offends me. We don't. I'm not like mad at you, but like, okay, it's fine. Everything's fine, Brendan.
Yeah, and he continues, these books really meant a lot to me and still do. I still have them and read one or two occasionally. I honestly haven't met a single other person in real life who has read these, LOL. I was born in '95, so my earliest memories are literally of Star Wars, and I agree, it literally feels primordial, as Tim once said. I don't recall you saying that.
I don't either, but good word.
Yeah, it's a good word. So I do have a question I've always had and could only ask my brother. Which of the two series, Last of the Jedi included in this question, but seeing you guys haven't read it yet, would you want to see made into an animated series like Clone Wars, Jedi Apprentice, or Jedi Quest? Also, are you planning on covering Secrets of the Jedi? Like, yes, we are.
Yep.
And I know you guys are hard at work and don't get paid, so I just wanted to say people listening really appreciate what you do.
Thank you,
and Also, just an idea, do a Buffy cast.
Oh.
Buffy podcast. Please just do one. The books are all there, or the show. I'm a giant Buffy head. Seems like y'all are too. And lastly, obviously, this message is as long as poop. So if you don't read it on air, whatever, I won't be offended. It wasn't that long.
It's fine.
And I will say, this.
Thing first.
Yeah, I used to have a very large Buffy book collection, which I didn't read a single book of, and I managed to actually sell to a fellow Buffy fan. So it would have been perfect for that podcast.
Listen, we are huge Buffy fans. Here's a couple problems. One, Star Wars is relatively unique in that it's one of the only licensed properties that I read books for or like play video games, you know what I mean?
Right.
Even things I love, like Buffy. The other thing is, if we did those podcasts about the show, there's already like several like Buffy podcasts, and I don't really listen to any of them, but they already exist and they do pretty well. It seems like it would not like the reason we did this as our Star Wars podcast is because no one else was doing it, like you pointed out, and like it's just a good niche. Like there's so many Star Wars podcasts that just kind of talk about Star Wars generally, and we just weren't really interested in doing that. Like we've mentioned before, we used to host a movie podcast, which was a lot of fun, and we have a friend, Franco, who I think started actually listening to the show. I've heard through the grapevine that he might have actually started listening to this show just because he's bored, has nothing to do right now.
Yeah, right. Come on.
But he's not a huge Star Wars fan. But he was
shout out to Franco. How you doing?
Franco's our guy. But he was like one of our only listeners on our old movie podcast. And he always begs me to bring it back, and I'm like, sometimes I wish we could just watch a movie and talk about it. Like that sounds so easy.
And then reading a book, taking notes.
Yeah,
I know.
And like I've been watching movies that way, like critically for so long that it's so easy for me to not have to take any notes. Like I can like just talk pretty extemporaneously about movies. Anyway, what we're talking about, Buffy. Yeah. We love Buffy. We could talk a bit about Buffy for a second.
Something about Buffy, especially about the books, are a huge chunk of the books is written by this one lady, Nancy Holder, and I believe she actually went on to write like Vampire Academy or something like that. She has her own book series now, but she's written a huge chunk of Buffy books, a lot like Jude Watson. So that's a fun little factoid.
Yeah, like I just there are some things I find interesting with an expanded universe and others not. The problem with Buffy books and like a lot of those shows from that period that had novel spin-offs is that they're about the main characters in between episodes, that kind of thing, and it just like it never feels big enough. There's enough big gaps. Like with these Star Wars books, these take place in huge gaps in the narrative. Like there's 10 years between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. Like I assume some of the Buffy books might cover summer vacations. Like that might be like the only real fruit. but the show very heavily implies that nothing happens usually over those summers.
Yep.
So it's like, but and listen, we love Buffy. I would love to just do a revisit of it. I haven't really watched it in a while, but like,
same.
I've seen it all the way through like 4 or 5 times. It's one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I grew up watching it, it was hugely important to me, formative to the kinds of stories I like and care about, genre-wise. So, quick, okay, here we go. Do you have a ranking of the seasons? Can you do a ranking of the seasons? Just off the top of your head?
Damn, off the top of my head.
You want me to go first?
Hey, I'll try to do this real quick. Okay. I think the third season's... I'll tell you, my season 3 may be number 1. Season 3, sure. I think, is great.
That's the best. Yeah, I agree. That's the best season.
And season 2 is great, too, with Angel and Angel losing his soul. That's all incredible. Yeah. I'd probably put 1 up there. Season 4 is definitely on the lower end of things. Her first year in college is definitely low. And then after that... I guess I would like.
I have a controversial ranking, I think.
Okay, season 4 may be the worst, and now I'm like trying to like figure out the other seasons. But they're like kind of mixed in between there. So like season 3 may be number 1. Right. Oh, and whatever season her mom dies is like
5.
way up there.
Okay.
Yeah, 5
So,
definitely.
This is my official. 3 is number 1. You're right. It's the perfect balance of everything. It has some serious dark shit, and like it's also still super fun, like high school Buffy, and just the overall story arc is the strongest, I think. And it has the introduction of Faith and Wesley, and it's awesome. Anyway, so I would go 3, 5.
That's a good one.
2, 6. 6 is
6 is
underrated. People hate.
Is 6 the season with once more with feeling?
It's in there. That people love that, obviously, but a lot of people hate that season.
Yeah.
Because that's the season where Buffy and Spike are dating, and that obviously the relationship is like problematic. I get it.
Well, the whole Buffy's whole resurrection is incredible, and the payoff of like Willow and them realizing like what exactly they've done, and like once more with feeling.
The Tara thing happens, which people don't like, but that season is super controversial. But I love season 6 of Buffy, like love. So that. And then I would go 1, which I just think is a lot of fun and also underrated. And then 4, which I don't love, but has lots of good episodes. Hush is in there, and the one where Oz comes back is great. There's and then
when he notices Tara smells like Willow. Oh man,
oh my god, that's the last season 7. I put at the bottom. I love the ending. I think this might have been our previous Buffy conversation on the show that might have sparked this question. I love the ending of the show. Like, I read the season 8 comics for a while and stuff, but I never got into it because honestly, the ending felt totally perfect to me. But I just wish that season had been stronger overall. Like the development of the first evil as as a bad guy, I thought the idea was interesting, but he wasn't like fully formed. And I just think that was like the staff was spread too thin across like 3 shows at that point. But it was like, so, and that's also the weakest season of Angel. I think that's season 4 of Angel, which is pretty bad. I think. So
and they really bring Angel around in season 5 because season 5 has so many like classic episodes.
Love season 5, and the ending of Angel is the hardest ending of all time. Like one of the cool. Listen, we love Buffy, so there you go. There's a little Buffy corner for you.
Can give me right off the top of your head top 3 Buffy characters.
Characters?
Yeah, characters.
Giles, Willow. I'm trying to go with maybe a non-core character, like as a third. But Giles and Willow for sure are like 1 and 2. Either flip those. And I'm just going Buffy. I gotta go Buffy.
Yep.
I love Buffy. She's just one of the greatest like core protagonists of an adventure story ever. Like she's just I love Buffy so much, and like no one. I find no hero character more inspiring than Buffy Summers. So I love Buffy. Yeah.
I had this dream once. I've never shared this dream with you before, but I had this dream that I was in school. It was like high school, and I was getting a ride home, and Willow was giving me a ride home.
I wish Willow was my best friend.
Yeah, and she dropped me off at my house, and it was just like I looked at her, and it was just like I was overcome with this like feeling of like this may be the last time I ever see you because like high school is over. And I remember just like getting out of the car and then just like walking around my neighborhood just with this, just like crushed by this feeling of like I may never see Willow again.
But I love Cordelia. I love Xander. I love
Wesley. Wesley. I
love Spike, Angel. I love every character practically. Although I love Tara. Oz, I love Oz.
Yeah.
It's the best thing Seth
Shouts
Green
to
ever
Xander.
did.
We've had no shouts to Xander.
I said
so...
Xander. I
you
love
did?
Xander,
Okay, I missed that. Sorry.
I love all the main characters of Buffy. They're all good. Like, well, unless if you count Riley as the main character, I don't love Riley. He's the main problem with season 4, honestly. So.
He is. I had a neighbor who was a big fan of Buffy, and like they named their son Riley, and they told us, oh yeah, it was named after this Buffy character, and this was before I watched Buffy, and as soon as I watched Buffy and saw who Riley was, I questioned all of their taste from that point. Like, how could you name a child after that character?
He's from our part of the country, so that might be why. The actor, Mark Lucas, he's from Meadville, I think, So maybe that's why. I don't know.
Maybe he's the father.
Oh my gosh. It is not a rumor-mongering podcast. Anyway, we're 35 minutes in. We've talked so much about Buffy. What else did he ask?
Yeah, we were going to do a short episode.
He asked, big question, he asked which of the two books series we've read would we like to see an animated series based on.
I would say Apprentice.
Yeah, I think that's closer to a different era than Clone Wars. So I think that's probably this is a contrast with Clone Wars, and also I think it's better overall. We'll talk about that in a second. Although maybe then Jedi Quest could be expanded, and that might be interesting.
Well, and I have a theory about that too that I wanted to bring up on the show today, because it's just like Jude. I feel like, well, I mean, she didn't start Jedi Quest. Wizard of Storytelling, Dave Wolverton, of course started that. Yeah. But like, the point where the series has to get Obi-Wan to episode 1, which has like almost no limitations. You can do whatever you want with the characters, whereas Jedi Quest, you have to get Anakin to episode 2, and there's like
he's on a track.
Way more.
He's on a track in a way that Obi-Wan isn't. So yeah, let's actually just dive in then from there. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Brendan, for the question. I hope you. Listen, we have strong disagreements about Star Wars, but we're glad you like the show, and keep listening. I hope you listen to us on YouTube, and our Rise of Skywalker review is not on YouTube. So if you want to, if you want to not be mad at us, maybe don't seek that out. It's on our iTunes, so you can check it out. But it's a very negative review.
If you have a controversial ranking of the Buffy seasons, let us know, I guess. All right, so getting into this. Oh, I have one last thing, and we do not have to talk about this. So when I was going through the books here, because I have the stack of the Jedi Quest books next to me, I was just looking at the spines of books, and I realized there's a continuity error between Jedi Prince and Galaxy of Fear. So you know how in the last Jedi Prince book, Zorba the Hutt's Revenge, Lando, after he gambles away his senatorial ship to Zorba the Hutt,
Classic moment.
He says he's going to go to an amusement park, check out the amusement park business. So we assume that that's where he enters in Galaxy of Fear, number 4, the Nightmare Machine. Well, Jedi Prince is post Return of the Jedi, Galaxy of Fear is post New Hope.
Oh, wow, yeah. Listen.
So, like, that timeline makes no sense.
The Jedi Prince books were never really considered canon, even amongst...
I know.
So that's what that is. They took a couple, like, world-building ideas, I guess, from them for whatever reason. I don't know why, but it's what it is. So, that's an Irishman reference. It's what it is. Great line from Irishman.
And I haven't seen Irishman yet.
I know. Oh, yeah, you haven't. I forgot. Sorry.
So, and then I noticed something else with these books, because I was staring at all the covers.
Yeah.
And have you ever noticed that there's a photo of Anakin that gets reused over and over on these covers?
Not particularly.
My
God, yes, wait.
Okay, pull book 6, pull book 9, book 5, book 8.
Oh my God.
Book 4.
Cannot believe it.
And book 1. It's the same face over and over again. They just use the same photo of him over and over again.
They altered him slightly, so he went from like Jake to Hayden a little bit from book 1. You know what I mean? But like, it's like, Wow. Yeah, you're right about that. That's wild. So let's talk about Jedi Quest. Listen, I don't mean to be negative. I think I might have sounded negative on last week's episode about the general arc of the series. But I do think it kind of came to a really good head. The last couple books were awesome. Really the last, I don't know, few books. When was the one where Yaddle died?
Is that... I'm looking at that now. Is that the Shadow Trap?
Yeah. So the second half,
6?
The second half of the series is great, and the first couple, the Jedi Quest hardcover book is awesome. But I think the first 5 books of the main series are pretty hit or miss. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that they're miss, but I don't think they're hits either. Like, I think they're like totally like middle of the line.
I like
and like
Dangerous Games
middle of the. Yeah, the Dangerous Games is the exception, but they're like so middle of the line that they're kind of forgettable in a way. And they're the ones that I have the hardest time ranking because it's just like I don't really. I mean, we did take that break, but like it's still like there's nothing that like really mentally stands out from them.
Yeah, so generally speaking, the last 5 books are above the first 5. There might be an exception here or there. And I have the other thing I have trouble with is we on our Apprentice recap episode, we did a wrap-up episode. We talked about kind of our favorite side characters, and there aren't really a lot of side characters that are fully fleshed out the way they were in Apprentice in these books. Like Jude, because she's good at it, was able to make us sad about the death of that one Senate aide in The False Peace. But that character was not really like a substantial side character. He was no like Astri, who is obviously in these books. Like there are carryover characters from Apprentice and stuff, but he was no like Astri or not Sienna. That's Lost Stars. I forgot again. Neild's sister, Sarasi.
Oh, Sarasi.
Yeah,
Sarasi. Yeah.
I don't know why Nield is sticking more than Sarasi.
Yeah, Tyro is the character's name, but yeah, he is not as significant.
Yeah,
but
the
like
Senate
she does a very good job at making you care about that character, but also. Not that this is a failure on her part, but like I found myself caring more about Tyro, a character who shows up twice, than I did about Dara. Was that her name?
Dara, who was the other Padawan who dies in the last book. Yeah, that character, like, I just feel like the other Padawans that he grew up with should have been more prominent as side characters throughout the series, other than Ferris, who obviously has a pretty big role, and we'll talk about Ferris a little bit. But do you want to just get into rankings? Or
yeah. So you
do you have yours done?
Should we? I kind of have mine done. I'm like staring.
What's the
I'm
seventh
staring
book
at them
called? Because I don't have that.
The 7th book is Moment of Truth, and I'll just go through mine real quick.
Give me a quick synopsis on that.
Okay, Moment of Truth is the one with the not the Gondark trap, where what is those beasties that is mentioned in episode 2? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
That's where that one has, and that's also where like that Anakin gets captured by Jenna's Ann Arbor.
Okay, yeah.
And he's in the relaxation zone.
Yes,
but I actually have that book as my least favorite because it genuinely feels like nothing happens in this book. He's in the relaxation zone.
Yeah, I remember.
They fight the beasties, and that's about it. Now I'm trying to. What are those beasties even called? Are they Gondarks?
They're Gondarks.
Yeah, Gondarks. Okay, so that's number 11. And then I have at number 10, I have book number 1, Way of the Apprentice. That's the book where they go to some planet that's poisoned.
Yeah, and, don't like that one.
Yeah. After that, I have Trial of the Jedi, book 2, which I can't say I even really remember what happens in this book. Oh, this is, we meet Grana Omega in this book. That's an important book, but that's where they're on the planet, like they're doing the survival mission and they run into the bounty hunters that have been hired to kill them.
Yes.
That one. Master of Disguise, Book 4, which is where we run into Gran Omega again on that one planet, and he's in disguise since he is the Master of Disguise. Not really something that's followed up on in this series, that he's a Master of Disguise. And then I know that somehow...
Well, because then once his identity is revealed, it kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah, because once it's revealed he's Xanatos' son, it's a big deal. So that's the bottom 4. So that puts me at, hang on here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So at number 7, I have School of Fear, book number 5. I really like the concept of this book. This is where I'm actually getting into like the books that I like. So this is fun. Anakin with the mercenaries is fun. Obi-Wan and Suri go undercover in this book. I find that hilarious. Anytime they have to put on disguises, especially when they're like pretending to be a couple, that I get a real kick out of that.
Yeah.
Then I have at number 6, Jedi Quest, the first book. What is this?
Yeah.
Path to Truth.
Yes.
The subtitle of this one is. Anakin kills a guy in this book. First book, and Anakin kills a guy, so that's pretty important. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that's a huge thing. He kills the slave owner guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and this book also has that awesome prologue. Where he, like, with the little girl who was a friend of his on Tatooine when he was a slave.
That book's great.
Yeah,
that book's fantastic. Yeah, that's one of her great books, I think. From this point on, I think all these books are going to be good, right?
Yeah. Final Showdown, we talked about a lot of this last week. I have it number 5. Good book, not more to say to that. Changing of the Guard, this is where I have it number 4. This is where they all go undercover as a group onto that criminal planet, and they're disguised as the criminals.
That's a very fun
picked this book.
Yeah,
and I have that because of the garden scene with Ferris and Obi-Wan. I think that scene is one of the most important scenes in the entire series. Is that scene right there? Number 3, I have book number 6, The Shadow Trap. Yaddle in this book. What more do I have to say?
Yeah.
Number 2, if you haven't figured out already, is Dangerous Games, the pod racing book.
So fun.
It's so fun. Everything about that book is fun. I thought it was Sebulba's son.
Sebulba's son, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then Dobie, DeLand, and I can't remember the other... No, not DeLand. Who am I thinking of? I'm thinking of the Tyrell family.
Yeah.
Dobie, is it Dobie? I can't remember their name.
Yeah,
Dobie DeLand, and they have a sister. All right, great stuff. And for my number 1, False Peace. All the stuff with Sheev in this book is incredible. The final battle in the Senate is incredible. And this is a political thriller, basically, and it's a real page turner. So number 1 for me, False Peace.
All right. Well, I'm not going to go from the bottom up. I'll just go top down, since we kind of touched on each of these, and our lists aren't super different, but a little bit. So number 9, number 1 is the False Peace for me. Also, easily. 2, I have Shadow Trap. Yaddle's death scene is like one of the great moments in any of these books, I think. 3, I have Final Showdown. I loved it as a conclusion. I thought it was awesome. 4, I got Dangerous Games, just a delight. Number 5, I got Path to Truth, the hardcover. Just that book goes hard. Like, that book sets the tone for the series, and we'll talk about some of the bigger themes going forward. Number 6, I got Changing of the Guard. I really enjoy that book. It's a fun caper. Number 7, I got Master of Disguise. I liked. This is kind of when Grant Omega becomes an interesting villain to me. He wasn't that interesting in the earlier books. Number 8, I got School of Fear. This book just didn't really leave much of an impression on me, honestly. Neither did anything below this, frankly. Number 8, Trial of the Jedi. 9, Way of the Apprentice. And at the bottom, I also have what's it called? The
Moment of Truth. Our last. How about this? So our last 3 are identical. in terms of how we rank them are we've ranked Master of Disguise and School of Fear, like we just switched them in terms of our ranking, and like our first 6 on our list, our top 6 are like all the same books. They're just in a different order. So.
Yeah, I mean, we very broadly agree on almost everything Star Wars related.
We do.
It's the only thing. Again, it's the thing we have full common ground on, which is delightful. It's nice to be able to touch base that way with anybody.
Mm-hmm. And something we haven't noted yet is Shadow Trap, where Omega reveals that he's Xanatos. Oh yeah, it is right here. He's Xanatos' son.
Yeah,
huge moment.
That book's huge. It's got that reveal. It's got Yaddle's death. Those are two
that
of the
book
big
slaps.
Yeah, I love that book. That's number 2 for me easily. The top like 3 or 4, really the top 5 are just hardcore bangers.
I agree.
They are bops, as the kids say. No kids that I've ever met when I've been at work, but lots of quote-unquote kids on the internet love to say bop, so I guess I'll say that for now. It's never heard it, ever. I'm around teenagers definitely more often than most of these people. Never heard them say it once. Apparently that's what the kids say. Never heard it.
The bops, man.
Bops. I never heard them say, like, man, this is a bop. They still say, this is my song. They'll still say, all that stuff.
My jam? Do they still say my jam?
That's a little antiquated, I think. But you might hear that every once in a while. I don't know. But bop, I've never heard bop. So, like... or a bop, like that's weird. That's something that like 20-somethings that live in Brooklyn say. I think. I don't think that's anything anybody else really. But maybe I'm wrong. If you're one of our younger listeners, email us and tell us how wrong we are about the great bop,
about the bopping,
the big bopper. Did the Big Bopper truly die on that plane crash in 1959? We don't know.
So let's talk about our favorite covers real briefly here.
Sure. Let's do it.
I don't think there's a single perfect cover.
There's one
in
cover
series.
I think is solid, but
I don't think there's any Changing of the Guard.
Changing of the Guard. Honestly, the rest of the covers are terrible. There's no other good covers.
But this book still has a little bit of an odd perspective issue on Anakin's pointing arm, but that's the only flaw in this cover, in my opinion.
The basic aesthetics of it are a little more just appealing, even if the illustration itself is not that good. The other one that's okay, it looks like a PS1 video game cover, but The Dangerous Games is not like the worst cover in the world.
I really like the Final Showdown cover. I think I guess the thing I like about it the most is Anakin's pouty face on there when they're not reusing the same face over and over in that way. Yeah. You don't have Moment of Truth, but Anakin's face on this cover is fucking priceless.
Hold it up
sorry for the swearing. I don't know how well you can see that, but like he's like and. Yeah, and then on Obi-Wan, look at Obi-Wan's mouth agape. They photoshopped a mouth on him, and he is so terrified.
That's never how Ewan's mouth would open in real life.
Yeah.
It's just, it would never happen that way.
And I think a good cover, too, is The False Peace.
I wouldn't call it
on it
good, but just Sheev's presence makes me happy, and his arm is raised so high onto his shoulder. I feel like it's like
I know.
It's like up like this, like
I know, and that hand is gigantic. Like the hand is so large, and his other hand does not seem like prospectively like the correct size. And there's 2 Imperial guards on either side of the cover. It's just a mirrored photo. I really don't enjoy that. So that's a flaw. However, I do think the worst cover of the series, and it was sadly because we think it's one of the better books, The Shadow Trap, is so terrible.
Oh yeah,
because
the 90-degree angle on Anakin's lightsaber is wild.
And his lightsaber is so stubby, and like it looks like they're actually holding toy lightsabers. Like the hilts are way too big, and I think Obi-Wan and Anakin are holding the same type of lightsaber. Like it's like it's some weird promotional picture that was taken, or it's somebody who like was doing the covers. I don't know. There's something really wacky about that cover, and the missed opportunity to put Yaddle on the cover too, I think, was a mistake.
Yeah, it's weird she's not there. I'll say this broadly about the covers: they're broadly worse than the Jedi Apprentice covers, but
I agree.
They've been pretty consistently bad all the way through, so I can't get too upset about it. We should, I guess, talk quickly about kind of the broader themes about Jedi Quest. We've touched on this in previous episodes, but I love the story of Anakin throughout this run of books. I think it's the best extra movie material about Anakin there is. I think it's the material that makes you understand him the most. I feel like even more so than Clone Wars gives you the kind of heroic side, but this makes you understand where he's at in Attack of the Clones and understand where he's at when he makes the decision with the Sand People that he does. I think I just think Jude is Jude has enriched that character greatly for me.
Oh yeah. Same. And something like with Clone Wars that shows his heroic side, like what we're seeing is like the Clone Wars enables Anakin to like kind of fuel all his bad habits. You know what I mean? Like the Clone Wars kind of enable him to like get like the way Anakin vents steam through just like being just as him trying to be just like a great and powerful Jedi. Like the Clone Wars enables him to do that, which like he's kind of limited here, but then like, we have all of his problems too. And the series too, something that I think is very important in this series is like Obi-Wan like acknowledges all these problems, he sees these problems, but at the end of the series he kind of just has to accept them because he's kind of like backed into a corner here because he made this promise to Qui-Gon. He doesn't want to let Qui-Gon down, and he also realizes that by the end of the series Anakin is more powerful than him, and no matter what he does, Anakin has that natural talent to him that he can't control.
Yeah, it's their relationship really finally gels, I think. Mm-hmm. I mean, it has and other stuff, but I think it makes where they're at the beginning of Attack of the Clones makes a lot of sense if you read this book. Like, because then you jump to Sith and they're like, oh, well, they're friends, and I think I'm fine with that. Like, I'm not a person that really. I think like that's the point of having multiple years between movies. Like, is that characters' relationships can change a little bit and you can like see different dynamics at work, but it is nice to be able to see like why is their relationship so combative and weird at the beginning of Attack of the Clones, like and then Clone Wars goes a long way towards why are they so brotherly at the beginning of Sith, so I just think I loved that part of the series. My biggest problems with it are just, we've talked about it. We can't really do a big side characters segment the way we did with Apprentice because I just feel like the side characters in this series were either one-offs or they weren't tracked as well as the ones from Apprentice. And honestly, the best side characters in Jedi Quest are characters that carried over. Like Astri, I thought it was great to see her kind of pop back up and where her arc went. Yeah. Was awesome. She's one of my favorite characters across all of Jude's books. I hope to see her again, frankly. We'll see if we do. But so I'm a big believer
Suri
in that.
Too.
Oh, Suri, yeah, absolutely.
Suri also another great crossover character, and I have some notes written here. And the Jedi Award for best plainclothes Jedi goes to Suri, because anytime she's in disguise is fantastic.
She's the Sonny Crockett of the Jedi.
The true Serpico of the Jedi.
By the way, you guys should all watch Miami Vice, the film.
All right.
The theatrical cut has has the coolest opening of any movie, like one of the coolest openings ever. It's just like Jamie Foxx and Colin Farrell walking through a nightclub, blasting "Numb Encore" by Linkin Park and Jay-Z. That's how the movie opens. You have black screen, and you're like, dun 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 dun, cut. It is the hardest opening. It takes that cheesy, like, just mid-2000s nonsense and turns it into just transcendent cinema. Why am I talking about this? Anyway.
I don't know.
Sonny Crockett is from Miami Vice. That's why I said Sonny Crockett.
Okay.
Sorry. I apologize.
Oh, no, you're fine. Something else I want to say about Suri is, I mean, we're always kind of talking about something going on between her and Obi-Wan.
It's not as hardcore as the tall Qui-Gon.
No,
right.
Right. However, we never get ourselves into a situation where Tull gets kidnapped. But if Suri were to be in the same circumstances, we all know that Obi would go just as hard to save her.
Of course.
Without a doubt.
She probably wouldn't need as much help as Tull, because Tull was blind, of course, as we know.
That's true. I actually forgot about that. So
yeah, but we might get more into their relationship when we get to Secrets of the Jedi in a little bit, in a few weeks or a month or whatever our schedule is. But anyway, so this series overall, I don't think it's as strong. If I sound negative, I don't mean to really. Again, like I said, the top 5 or 6 books of this series are as good as anything Jude's ever written, I think, for Star Wars. It's some of my favorite stuff. When we do our wrap-up of all of the Jude era, I'm sure at least 1 or 2 of these will make my top 5 or 10 of her books. They're awesome, but I do... I just have to call it like I see it. This is not as Jedi Apprentice has had a couple lulls, but because it was so much longer, I think the arc of the series felt like it was able to withstand a couple bum books, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas the slow start with the main series, I think, kind of hurts this a little bit, and it was a lot less popular. Everybody I know in real life that read Jedi Apprentice, none of them read Jedi Quest. That's anecdotal. Right. I'm sure they sold well enough. Obviously, they give Jude another series, but I do think the kind of slow start to that series could have hurt it a little bit. So, yeah. Also, I mean, Attack of the Clones just wasn't as popular as Phantom Menace. That probably
right. They scaled way back on the merchandise. Well, I don't want to say they scaled way back on the merchandise.
Compared to Phantom Menace, it's way back.
There were far less tie-dye T-shirts and suit ties made for Attack of the Clones than there were Phantom Menace.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But what I appreciate about, a Jedi Quest is half the size of Jedi Apprentice. Jedi Apprentice with the special editions is 20 books. This is 11 books. Yeah. But I do appreciate her overall story of this one that she has, because Jedi Apprentice, I feel like I've already discussed this. It has almost 2 self-contained arcs, whereas this one is one kind of consistent arc with Grand Omega. And I like that also helped plot the Ferris character, and I think too the plotting of True is a very important character in this, because Anakin starts off with the series with really nothing. He's an outcast in the temple. Remember, he's got his droid hobby where he's running out at night stealing droid parts.
And that's when he runs into True, yeah.
Right, that's when he meets True, and he refers to True as his best friend, and that's really important to him. And at the end of the series, his fear of losing his best friend is what causes him to lose his best friend. This directly mirrors Padme in the same exact way.
I love that. My problem with the True character is that he disappears for almost the whole series, and then comes back at the very end. I just wish there had been one adventure that Obi-Wan and Anakin had gone on with True and who's True's master again?
Rygal.
Rygal. I wish that they had gone on one mission together in the middle of the series somewhere. Where because they're together in the first couple books, and they have a big thing in Dangerous Games, but that's book 3, and then you really don't see True again until the last book. And, like, I think that's a bit of a problem. So I still think that stuff works. The emotional stuff at the end of Final Showdown works for me, but I do think it's. I think it would hit a bit harder if we had more of a relationship with that friendship.
Yeah, that with that character, and like she does that like within the first book, like Way of the Apprentice. That's where we are introduced to Dara too in that book. Yeah, but like it's just nothing happens with those characters. So
I think she knew she wanted to focus on Ferris. And Ferris, his arc totally works for me. I really am actually pretty excited about Last of the Jedi now. I really like Ferris, but I wish there were more with the other Padawans. But it's not that's not like a critical failure of the series. It's still a great time, and honestly, if you like Jedi Apprentice and you haven't read Jedi Quest, you really should. Like it.
Yeah, you definitely should.
It feels like just the next 10 books in the same series, and I'm really excited. We're going to talk a little about a short story here at the end of the show, but there's more Jude. Obviously, we have the two Clone Wars books. I think are going to be like the real wrap up of her era in a lot of ways. Obviously, Last of the Jedi. I mean, Ferris is the character she set up here, but like we're not going to have any movie characters in that really couple books, from what I understand. Those, but maybe we'll be surprised. But so I'm really excited about that, and we got plenty of Jude left because we know Rebel Force. Alex Wheeler is Jude, so I'm excited about this. Her accomplishments when it comes to Star Wars fiction are pretty high up there. I think she's very underrated. She should be talked about with all the other Timothy Zahn and all those people. She's a very, I think, significant Star Wars author.
And this her portrayal of Anakin should be like the number one reason she's put up there with those Timothy Zahn,
Michael A. Stackpole, James Luceno,
James Lucena, Claudia Gray, like without a doubt, because this portrayal of Anakin is so rich and it's so deep, and there's something else here I want to talk about, and it involves Ferris. It goes back to the garden scene with Ferris and Obi-Wan, and this is where Ferris confides into Obi-Wan that he has all these fears for Anakin, but Obi-Wan, he's like, wow, I'm actually kind of refreshed. Somebody else thinks this, and I'm not just like thinking in my head. But he tells Ferris that like Anakin has a good heart. And, like, you have to believe in that heart. And, like, that's something that Obi-Wan believes. And I think it's true about Anakin. Anakin does have a good heart, but Anakin is immature. And that's what also leads him into fascism, that kind of thing, because everything should be solved by one. But Ferris does point out, but with Anakin, like, he thinks of if he believes something is right, then that's what he believes and he pushes for, But she acknowledges, she gives Anakin flaws, and then she gives Anakin good qualities as well. So it's all very well done.
Jedi Quest is great. I'm very happy we finished it here. I'm really excited about Last of the Jedi. But before we get into what's happening next week and all that stuff, let's talk a little bit about. We read a short story.
Yes, Jude Watson has written 3 short stories, and we're going to talk about the first one. This is Dark. Hang on, I lost it. Storm Fleet Warning. And this came out. It came out in a short story collection, and this was basically like a small, like I actually had this as a kid. It wasn't quite like a comic book size. It was just like a mini kind of booklet that came out whenever they did the first wave of not Attack of the Clones, Clone Wars figures. So this is when the first Clone Wars animated series came out, and this was like a big push to kind of, launch the Clone Wars. So this was actually put out by Hasbro.
And she's billed, by the way, as the author of Legacy of the Jedi, which I wanted to point out.
Yes.
Like the Jedi Apprentice Special Editions, this was published in the Legacy of the Jedi, which is a book we're going to cover soonish. That it was published in the middle of Jedi Apprentice after the 6th book. We should have probably checked on that, but it takes place during the Clone Wars, though, so we're going with, or at least the bulk of it, from what I understand, takes place there. So.
And did you look through this whole PDF and see that there's an ad for 4 books? Did you see the ad?
No, what are the books?
Okay, the books are Legacy of the Jedi, then Jedi Apprentice, Jedi Quest, and then Boba Fett. So 3 of these 4 books that they're pushing are Jude Watson.
She was a huge part of everything. But this story takes place during the Clone Wars.
Correct.
And there's some interesting stuff about Anakin feeling like he can't talk to Obi-Wan about what happened during Attack of the Clones, which we know, obviously. And there's a little conflict about what their strategy is. It's just a kind of basic mission thing. There's not really much to talk about, frankly.
No, there's really not. They find some armored ships. They go to track them. They're separatist ships.
Don't they meet up with a character from Jedi Apprentice? What's his name?
They meet up with a character, but I don't remember him. Like, his name is...
it's on the second page, I think.
Crap. Yeah, Fizz. Where I don't
look.
Where was he in Apprentice?
I don't know. I sounded vaguely familiar, and it was a friend of Qui-Gon's from the past who recognized Obi-Wan after he mentioned Qui-Gon. He's like, "Oh, well, he was one of the good Jedi, basically." And
yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Was Fizz only in that story?
Yes, yeah, he is.
I thought
on Wikipedia
maybe he
right
was
now.
a character from Jedi Apprentice. I guess not. But, so, the callback to Qui-Gon is a nice callback to the Jedi Apprentice style of story, where it's like, Qui-Gon's friends with this guy, some Sleemo, and Obi-Wan was mistrustful of him, but now he loves all of Qui-Gon's old Sleemo friends, That's a fun dynamic that's run through all of Jude's books. But, this story is very inessential. I'm happy to have read it. Always happy to read a Jude Star Wars story. But
yeah.
I don't think we can really talk that much about it, frankly.
No, that's it. Because they just, they go to track the ships, and then, Obi-Wan's like, oh, we should report this to the temple. And Anakin's like, I'm going after them. And, Anakin destroys 2 of them, and 1 gets away. But that's it. That was the story. It was very short. Not even 6 full pages, but yeah. However, there is 2 other stories within this booklet.
There's a Timothy Zahn story, right?
Yeah, there is a Timothy Zahn story. Star Wars Insider presents Duel. Before Yoda can rescue a lone survivor from the droid army, he must outsmart a cunning Hailfire droid.
I might read that later. That sounds fun.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And then
there's
Stover,
another one,
right? Who is actually he wrote the Revenge of the Sith novelization, that's a book that slaps. Have you read that? Oh,
no, I
awesome.
haven't.
So much cool stuff in that.
A Republic, this is called Equipment, a Republic clone trooper regiment faces impossible odds at the Battle of Halaran Kal. So yeah, and he also wrote Shatterpoint.
We'll talk about Shatterpoint. I haven't read, but that's a Mace Windu book that's based on Heart of Darkness. So that sounds fun. Anyway, we'll talk about this when we talk about Legacy of the Jedi. But the Clone Wars multimedia project is a very interesting time for Star Wars, because now Clone Wars, when you say Clone Wars, you think of the show. And that's become the definitive record of that era. But there was so much Clone Wars material. Obviously, the Tartakovsky series, but also tons of novels, comics, books that we're going to cover on this show. So it's an interesting era, and it's interesting that, people freaked out when Disney bought Star Wars and like stuff got wiped out, but stuff has quietly been wiped out before. We've talked about Jedi Prince. That was largely just not acknowledged. And the Marvel comics, which I love from the 70s and 80s, are largely unacknowledged. Some elements are taken and borrowed here or there, but that's throughout the rest of the expanded universe. And then, again, when Clone Wars started, the Dave Filoni Clone Wars, that show was the EU was still going on at that point, and it overwrote tons of stuff basically. So. Yeah, Star Wars was always heading in this direction. It would have happened eventually, even without the sale, I think.
You know what's funny is that the Clone Wars era is like the most explored era, I would say, between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. Like, that's notoriously a muddled area of the timeline, but so is Clone Wars.
Yeah, there's so much material from just that's been done. I mean, now it's very clean. It's just a show. Yeah, but in the current timeline, but when they were trying to reconcile the show with all of the multimedia stuff, it was difficult because the show did not acknowledge that stuff because George Lucas was working on the show and he did not care. So he was like, "What I say is going to be the real thing." So it is what it is, But yeah, we'll talk about that a lot probably when we do Legacy of the Jedi, or maybe when we do the Boba Fett books. But so yeah, next week we're whether we record in person or not, we will be doing Star Wars Science Adventures #1.
Yes,
we've been teasing this for the whole run of the show.
This is Jude's. This came out in '99. Her first book that she ever wrote for Star Wars was the Princess Leia Journal. But this came out in '99, same year as Jedi Apprentice, same year as her Padme and her Darth Maul journal. Actually, the Darth Maul journal came out in 2000.
Right.
Sorry for that mistake. But these books here, Science Adventures, there was only 2 of them. The first book is called Emergency in Escape Pod 4, and the sequel is called Journey Across Planet X. And she has a co-writer on these books, Katie Burkett.
I would guess is the science guy on this.
I would think so. I've Googled the name. I haven't found much. Katie Burkett has not written another book before. He may be a photographer. I'm not sure yet. I haven't quite figured that out.
We'll talk about this all next week, for sure.
Yeah, I gotta do a little bit of research. So, but these are what each of these books says in the corner of everything: real science, real adventure. So they're trying to make these a bit of like an educational thing.
More like trying
kids.
To make real science fiction out of Star Wars, which is maybe a fool's errand. We'll see. We're definitely going to talk that book next week. Whether we wind up doing it in person or not is up in the air. We'll see.
And then just a quick rundown of the rest of the schedule, too, is the following week we will be doing Science Adventure 2, and then we're getting into Boba Fett. So we'll do the first 3 Boba Fetts, then either Legacy of the Jedi. Legacy of the Jedi, the next 3 Boba Fetts, so the final 3, and then we'll be doing Secrets of the Jedi, and then we'll have probably that's when we'll have our big thorough Clone Wars discussion, because that whole era will be covered, and we will have read that entire era of the junior novels, of the Clone Wars junior novels.
And we'll have to, and we'll figure out beyond that. We'll probably move into Last of the Jedi at that point, I would guess, but yeah, we'll figure that all out eventually. But that's roughly our schedule the next month or 2. So you guys got plenty of time to read along with us. And by the way, I wanted to say seriously, like if this sucks for a lot of people, and a lot of people are out of work, and if you guys are, our thoughts are with you, and I hope hopefully things can recover, and I'm in a place that I'm relatively secure for the moment, so if I sound cavalier, I don't mean to be. And so I hope everybody gets the help they deserve. We'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So until then, follow us on all the social medias. I don't need to go through them. You know them at this point. Of course, buy our Until the Books Are Due Back t-shirt
if you can afford it,
available
obviously,
on...
in these times.
If you can afford it, once those government checks come, you can definitely afford it. You have no excuse after the government checks arrive.
We'll see.
And then we'll see. We'll see how everybody's actually doing financially. Probably pretty bad at that point. Yeah, be safe out there. The library is closed already. If
the real library is definitely closed. But our library is going to close here in a minute.
Matter of seconds. This has been an online course this entire time.
Yeah.
So
I know all about those.
So the books will be due back at some point.
Listen,
but
we
until
can't expect
then,
people to go out and return books. So we're waiving all late fees for the time being. You got to return them within a week or two of the library reopening, whenever that happens.
Okay,
we gotta be stern about that. But
once the library opens, that's when the late fees are back, people. So
all right,
the meter starts running again until the books are due back.
The library is closed. Padawan Library is hosted and produced by Tim May and Levi Peretic. It is edited by Tim May. Our theme song is by the Astral Project. Our artwork is by Freddie Funbuns. Copyright 2020, Tim May and Levi Peretic, all rights reserved.